Thompson is one of Graham Norton's guests at 10 o'clock. And coming up next on BBC One, it's the weekly Witch Hunt with Fiona Bruce. Welcome to Question Time. Tonight's panel are attractive Conservative woman Helen Iwood and from Labour Morrissey Bankrupt, back here again for the second time this year. And from the SNP, a perpetually offended Scottish tyrant, Chris Swine. Karen, a middle-aged complainer from Colchester. She went to school with Helen Iwood. And of course, a neckbeard from the Spectator magazine. Smile, you right-wing prick. Good evening. Welcome to my guests here and to these 12 members of our virtual audience who think there's one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everyone else. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. And of course, if you're watching at home and you think that there's one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everyone else, you can tweet us how angry you are and we will post them on the BBC website. So, let's get started. And tonight's first question is from Karen in Colchester. Karen, is there one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everyone else? Start with you. Is there one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everyone else?
Well, yes, I think there is definitely one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everybody else, because everybody else has been following the rules, but not Dominic Cummings. So clearly there's a rule for Dominic Cummings and a different rule for everybody else.
Morrissey, what do you think?
Yes, I think Dominic Cummings definitely broke the rules, and it does mean that there is clearly one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everybody else, because everybody else seems to be following the rules, so why can't Dominic Cummings?
Karen from the virtual audience.
I'm pissed off, because it's like there's just one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everybody else. It cost me so much money in toilet roll and pasta, and I think he should pay for it. I mean, who else brought a load?
Chris, you've been uncharacteristically quiet for an eternally offended Scottish man. What do you think?
Well, there clearly is one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everybody else. And I think if everybody was to act like Dominic Cummings and not obey the rules, then Dominic Cummings would obey the rules just so that there could still be one rule for Dominic Cummings and another rule for everybody else.
Chris Swine, if you was a rapper, what would you rhyme with Dominic Cummings?
Prominent bummings.
Maris Piper, you've been in isolation for 5 months now. How are you feeling?
I know, it's like nothing's giving me any hope really, because it's like there's rules for Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson, and then different rules for everybody else. It's quite depressing really. Quite lovely outside, but I'm stuck in here baking.
Helen Iwood from the Conservatives, what have you got to say for yourself?
I just think not so popular now, are you, Helen Mellors? Just like in school in year 8 when you got caught behind the bike sheds with your hand down Peter's trousers touching his willy. You're just a slag.
Neckbeard.
Hi Fiona.
And we're out of time. Sorry, we're out of time. We'll be in Dunstable next week. We'll be back on Witch Hunt next Friday night at 8 p.m. when we'll have another panel and some more guests with the same questions. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.